We're excited. So, like Ryan said, this is going to be an interactive session. We really just want to make space to answer any of your questions. You should be excited that we have Chloe in the room. She's helped run Facebook ads for hundreds of nonprofits and has so much experience, and we'll be able to answer lots of your questions. So, let's take it away. If y'all can just put questions into the Q&A or in the chat, we will start to answer them. Also, as Ken said, most upvoted question gets a t-shirt. So let's get those
Awesome.
questions
Excited to
in.
be here. Answer any questions you may have. Again, throw them in the Q&A section and we can get it going. Awesome. I see a couple coming in here.
I got one as well. As people put them in. Chloe, do you have any specific tips and tricks for ad copy that has been working recently? I know that's a quickly changing field, and kind of the tips and tricks that work are moving, and it's a moving target. You have anything that's been working for clients recently?
Yeah, it absolutely is a changing field. It's a great point. In general, it's definitely going to depend on the type of campaign you're doing. But overall, keeping it short and sweet, be as punchy as possible. I always say the key to specifically donation campaigns is that we are selling something that oftentimes doesn't have a product, right? So, what we're selling is the idea of our organization and the ways that people can help support your work. So being able to capture your mission in about 3 lines of text is absolutely a learning curve. But keeping it to that 3 lines, specifically on Meta, before we hit that see more option, that's a really great way for specifically cold audiences or interest or lookalikes to really introduce yourself and pull them in about 3 lines or less.
I love it. And I was talking to Andrew recently. He also mentioned red emojis
Red
to
emojis,
start the
that's a
ads.
big one.
Red
Yeah.
emojis. You got the firelight emoji and the stop sign
Mhm.
emoji, and then
I'm partial
also
to the
calling.
exclamation point too.
Yeah,
And one thing to really keep in mind too when you're writing copy is that your headline really matters. So if you're unfamiliar with headlines, it's that bold string of text underneath where your image is going to show up. And after your creative, which is your image or your video, that's oftentimes the first thing that people are going to read. So keeping that really in line with what your CTA is, depending on your campaign, is super important. So do not sleep on headlines.
amazing. Thank you, Chloe. And if y'all have follow-up questions to any of these answers, please put them in the chat as well. Also, we can pull people up onto stage if you have questions, or even if you want to share your screen and get feedback on specific content. So if you'd like to do that, go ahead and put it in the chat and we will pull you up. Let's see. Laura had a good question about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. What is the best way to avoid having your ad being rejected?
That is a tough one. And one thing about Meta is that it is an amazing platform. We can get some really great results. But when you start getting errors, it can be a difficult situation to counteract. When we are talking about ads getting rejected, first, it depends what you're getting rejected for, right? So, depending what your organization is doing, you could be getting flagged for social issues, political issues, even employment. A lot of things I've run into is even running volunteer campaigns. We can get flagged for employment ads. So I think the best way to avoid it if you're getting flagged specifically for political or social issues is to get a disclaimer going. So pretty much what you're going to do is confirm your organization's information, confirm your information, and that way you pretty much are confirmed to run these types of ads. So if you do publish a campaign with a disclaimer, you're much less likely to get rejected. Um, if your ads are getting rejected, most of the time I will go in, make a minor change, republish it, try to get it through, and you can request a manual review on it as well. That is definitely an uphill battle at times, but getting a disclaimer going is a really great way to counteract that.
Let us know if anyone is getting ads rejected that doesn't have a disclaimer, or if you're getting stuck in creating a disclaimer, and we can help with the details of that process. It's not super complicated. You just need to kind of know what to do and where to look. All right, let's see. What about this one? Which ads in your experience are the most successful for obtaining donors and or volunteers?
So that one's a little broad, but in general, what we find is that a two-tier type of situation works best. So what we're going to want to do is run an engagement campaign and supplement that with a conversion campaign for donors specifically. The best way to explain it is that it's a lot easier to ask someone you know for $5 than walking up to someone random in the grocery store and asking them for $5, right? So what you want to do is first introduce yourself to a lot of these new users if you haven't run ads on Meta before. And that way you can really drive home the importance of your organization and your mission. And so, really being able to first get them in the top end of our funnel with some engagement ads and then hit them with some donation ads. Um, when it comes to which ads are most successful for donation campaigns, it's really difficult to tell what's going to work every single time. If I had $1 for every ad that I thought was going to be the best performing, it would be the one. I would be a very rich person. But what we can do is run multiple ads in every campaign to see what messaging resonates best. We generally run at least 3 or 4 ads in every single ad set that we launch. And the main reason is we don't know what's going to perform best when we first get started. So, testing as much messaging with your different programs, what impact your organization can tangibly make. I do find that putting specific dollar amounts, if it's an evergreen donation campaign, can be really successful. Like, what does your $10 actually give to the people that you serve? Those have been resonating really well.
I love that. Thank you, Chloe. Yeah, to summarize, key takeaways. Number one, 2 tiers. First, to build engagement and awareness. You use the engagement campaign objective on Facebook and you're able to reach people for less money. And then the second tier being a conversion campaign. So you're warming people up, getting to know them before you're asking them to donate or take key action, which is huge. And then I think showing the impact of the donation is huge. Also, what I would add there is we work with a lot of organizations who have a more limited budget and are choosing how to allocate that budget. And almost always a big missed opportunity is people who are in your email list. So they've subscribed to get emails from you. At one point, they've raised their hand, but they've stopped opening emails from you. And you can target those people in Facebook and Instagram, and you can run ads to reach them when you have no real other way to reach them with your other marketing channels. So again, these are people who have at one point subscribed, they've raised their hand. They're people who are a good fit for your organization just for whatever reason, because they're busy or because your emails aren't delivering, they stopped opening your emails. You can get in front of them when they're on Facebook and Instagram instead of in their email inbox, and you can reach them. And that's one of the most effective audiences to reach with a limited budget, because you're not having to convince these new people to find out who you are and to convert. You're just getting back in front of people who already know who you are. Same with existing supporters. So it's always a game of how much do you grow versus how much do you convince existing supporters to support again. But based on our experience, almost always we tell our clients and members of the accelerator to focus more on running ads to existing supporters who aren't supporting already. So
Absolutely.
great points. Do you have any questions you want to hit, Chloe? Or I can take one.
Yeah, I'm seeing in our Q&A section, we have one from Dana, I believe. Sorry if I'm terrible with pronouncing names, but I think it's Dana, about good ways to be eye-catching when your nonprofit requires more serious tone. So this is really, I don't think an obstacle. I think it can at times be a benefit, because this gives you an opportunity to highlight a lot of individual stories. So I know on Meta, Facebook, and Instagram, a lot of it is you want to be as flashy as possible. And that's just not the case for a lot of organizations, especially surrounding chronic illnesses and things like that. But I do think that you have a really great opportunity to highlight individuals that you serve. And so getting some stories of impact, whether it's images of people that you've helped, if you can get a video interview, that's even better. And that way you can really highlight a lot of the amazing work that you do. and we find those to resonate really well. Um, if you do need to get some flashy sort of imagery going, if you do happen to run any events, that's a great opportunity. Any sort of programs that you are running. But I think if you do need a more serious tone, that's a really great way, is just to highlight some of your individual stories of impact.
That is great. Again, please keep coming with follow-up questions. And as I say that, I think I see a follow-up question. Alyssa, when you say, can you give an example of how to reach those? Are you speaking about reaching our existing donors or email subscribers? Yes, great. Chloe, can you give a little more context as to how we can do that in Facebook ads?
We're reaching lists, right? That's our question.
Yeah. How do we we got a bunch of people on our email list who don't open emails. How do we run ads to them and reach
So
them
one of the
through
great
Facebook and
features
Instagram?
on Meta is that you can take your list and you can upload it right into a campaign. So if you have like a CSV file of people in your list that you want to reach again, you can upload that straight into an ad set and run ads only to those people. And so if you are running a campaign that way, it's a really great opportunity to write very specific copy that speaks to those people that you've reached before. And it's an awesome way to reach back out. So you can just upload your list right into Ads Manager.
Amazing. Thank you. And that's in the audience's. Amazing. We got a wow from Alyssa. I love it.
Hey guys.
What's up,
So
bro?
we have a bunch of things in the Q&A session that we wanted to direct your attention towards. So the top thing that Maria mentioned was Gina put a question at the top of the Q&A. Most highly voted. She might just win a t-shirt for that. Who knows? But she says, which ads in your experience are the most successful for obtaining donors and or volunteers? And if you talked about this a little bit, feel free to expand on all of your talking points.
I feel like we hit this a little bit, but it is going to be specific, again, to every organization. No one knows your organization and your mission better than you. And so I think one way to write really successful donation ads is to write it, leave for 10 minutes, and read it as if you are someone who could donate to your organization, right? And so, with what types of ads are going to be most successful, go with what appeals to you. I believe we hit on this a little bit already, but with our two-tiered approach, warming people up and then really reintroducing what makes your organization and your mission incredibly valuable to the communities that you serve.
Nice.
Yeah, amazing. I'll add another point that's a little broader than Facebook and Instagram ads, but like Chloe mentioned, you don't go up to someone on the street, ask them for $5. You don't go up to someone on the street and ask them to marry you, but oftentimes we'll run ads to cold audiences, as in someone who's never heard of us before, and ask them to donate. I think it's a really helpful exercise to map out your supporter journey, which is how someone interacts with your organization all the way from awareness to empowerment. So how do they become aware? How do they engage? How do they subscribe to hear more from you? How do they convert for the first time? How do they continue to convert? And then how do they become empowered to share more about your organization with their friends? We have a template for that I can share with you called the Nonprofit Supporter Journey. But once you do that, you'll find most likely that the best way to attract people is oftentimes through events or through free resources and not asking them to donate right away. And Facebook and Instagram ads are a great way to target really niche groups of people based on their psychology on Facebook and Instagram. And it will probably make a lot more sense to ask those people to attend a free event or to download a free resource or to join your email list and newsletter before asking them to convert and donate or to volunteer. And the second piece of that
big
is
ask, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the second piece is once you get them into your email, you can use email to continue to tell your story, to continue to communicate at scale without paying to reach them in the way you do with ads. So I would encourage you to look at that. I would encourage you to look into your data to see what your costs are to get someone to donate cold versus getting them on your email list first or giving them something of value for free, like a free event or a free resource.
Yeah, I think that's a really important metric to track is just cost per lead. Like how much is this really, what is this acquisition taking to get to that point? And especially like what does that conversion mean for that acquisition level too? So I think that's a good way to think through that. I must have missed it. Did you guys catch this question from Dana in the chat, by the way? Okay. And then it looks like Bailey's question just shot up to the top. So
Mhm.
Bailey asks, she says, we struggle to get photos, videos, and stories from clients due to HIPAA and a general unwillingness. Do you have any recommendations or just any insight into what you can do when you might not be able to get the content yourself? Like, what other sources can you pull from? What other kind of things can you do to still be creative and get that message across to your audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have run into this before. It's definitely, you're not the only one struggling with this. I do find that at times clients are more willing to give like a text story than they are oftentimes to get on camera and do a full on video or images, things like that. So if you are able to get text based stories, you can use stock imagery. And so that way you are distancing it from the individual, and that can be really helpful. And if you are struggling to get even text based stories, ask the people that work within your nonprofit, right? Your individual stories of impact don't end just with the people that you serve, right? Your organization has a really far reach, and I'm sure that someone in your organization will be willing to help. But I have found that the stock imagery has been a winner for those who are willing to share their story, but not necessarily have their image and video be out there.
That's it. That's great. Another ad format that we've seen work really well is if you have the ability to get any sort of press coverage for your nonprofit, and this can really be anyone down to a local news organization, and they write a story about your organization, you can take a screenshot of that like press posting or what they would post on social, and you can run that as an ad. So that adds some extra credibility to you, and
Melinda,
sometimes the
absolutely.
imagery is what's that?
Absolutely, you should get consent for it, as Melinda just put in the chat.
Yeah. uh, for any stories, yeah. But
Yeah.
the PR tool is great, and you can use more vague imagery and have more text
We've also
in the
found that
image.
volunteers are possibly more willing to engage as well. So if you do have any volunteers associated with your organization, that's a great place to go as well.
Absolutely. All right, I saw a question that I need to find. I liked Varendare's. Should nonprofits run always on ads or special campaigns only, as audience may give a insight that wire money is going towards too much advertisement? What is your take on it? I think that's great. It sounds like it's two questions. The first one is, do you recommend always on ads or ads around specific campaigns? And then the second one is, how do you kind of overcome the objection that we're spending too much money on advertising as nonprofits? Do you want to hit the first one, Chloe?
Should nonprofits run always on ads or special campaigns only? So I'm not sure if I'm understanding this correctly, but ads definitely should not be your only presence on Meta, right? So you should be posting on your organic social as well. That's totally free and connects with your community and gets your organization out there. Um, I don't think you should be running special campaigns only. So I don't think in general it should be like a one time situation. We do suggest running evergreen campaigns that just get the message of your organization out there. And that's something you can run all the time, opposed to just special one time only campaigns. But you should absolutely be doing organic social as well. In that way, it can kind of balance out your ad presence. A lot of times, too, with your ads, you're not going to be necessarily reaching the people that already know you, right? So if you're running, say, an engagement campaign, these might all be completely cold audiences, so interests and lookalikes, and people who have never heard of your organization before. So if you aren't reaching people that already follow you, it could be a non-issue.
That is great. Thank you, Chloe. And to touch on the campaigns versus always on ads, if I'm understanding correctly, if we look at a campaign as like we're running a campaign for an upcoming event, there's a set amount of time that we're running it for, and there's a key action that people are taking, versus always on being more evergreen ads to get people to find out about you. Most of what I see is campaigns performing slightly better than always on ads, because there's a level of urgency involved. So if you're running a year-end campaign, for example, and there's a match and the match is going to run out, or if there's an event and you need to sign up before the event, people are really busy and it's hard to spur people to take action. So adding a level of urgency where they have to take action now to achieve the outcome they want to achieve can can just give that extra push that people need to take key action. So I would definitely recommend running events, but like Chloe said, ideally we do both. Let's see, we got some more in.
Looks like we have a bunch in our Q&A queue section.
Yeah.
Awesome. Seeing one at the top about recurring giving. So this one has been a project for us, absolutely. And so my top recurring giving campaign tip is to start with your current donors. So your current one-time donors, you can load a list right into Ads Manager. And that's a really great opportunity to engage with people who already know and support your work. And so it's a lot easier to move them from that goalpost to recurring giving versus someone who may have never given to your organization before. And so generally remarketing is going to be a great place to start with people who are already familiar with you because it can be a pretty big ask for, hey, we have never given you an ad before. We've never introduced ourselves, and now can you donate every single month? It can be a big ask. So starting with those who already support you is a great step one.
Absolutely. I love it. We've been talking recurring giving a lot in our accelerator program with a couple of our members who are standing up new programs, and a couple other unsolicited tips that aren't as related to ads are, like Chloe said, start with your best donors and get them in the program first. And you really want to build community around your recurring giving program. So when you think about your volunteers, and yes, they're giving you money, but what can you give to them that's not just the opportunity to support your organization? Can you connect them with other volunteers to build community and to build a tribe? Can you give them other products that they might find valuable? Can you give them the opportunity to support with time and testimony instead of just money? There's a lot of interesting ways you can improve a recurring giving program that are cheap but can build tribe and community among your members. The other piece is ideally you want to brand the recurring giving program as its own community and tribe. And so someone is joining this community instead of just choosing to donate monthly versus one time. So Charity Water does a great job of this with the spring. They have their own separate landing page. They brand the community distinctly. I would just copy everything Charity Water does with their recurring giving program, and that'll get you 95% of the way there. But
Another
those are
great
some
way
other
too, at least I've found specifically in your ad copy for recurring giving, is to include the benefits. What do people get out of it? So whether that is exclusive stories of impact in an email, whether people get keychains, whatever it happens to be, I would include that in there as well.
Yeah, amazing. And talk to your supporters and see what they want out of a community like that and give that to them. It is great. All right, let's see.
I'm seeing one from Katie here at the top too.
Yeah.
Who's curious about best practices for choosing your audiences and how targeted we get. So this one is a bit of a long-winded answer, so I'll try to cut it down as much as I can. First, it's really going to depend on your type of campaign, right? So a donation campaign is going to be different from an event, is going to be different from an engagement campaign. But in general, I think you want to think through who your current donor persona is, right? So who are the people that already support you, and can you replicate that through an audience on Meta who doesn't know who you are? So whether that is an interest, whether it's a lookalike, lookalikes are a great place to start. What you can do is load in your current audience. You can create a lookalike, which is pretty much telling Meta to find people who are in some way like the audience that we already put in. So that is a really great way to get started. If we're talking interest audiences, so that's something that you create within Meta's Ads Manager. We do get pretty targeted. We like to get down to 100 to 300,000 as an estimated audience size. So if you haven't built a campaign before, when you're doing that, Meta will give you a little square on the side, and it'll tell you what your estimated audience size is. We don't want it to be too small because then our frequency gets crazy, and the same people are just going to be seeing our ads over and over and over. And we don't want it to be too big because then our ads might not speak to them. And so we find like 100 to 300,000. Meta's changing all the time, so we have been testing some broader audiences, but that's been our sweet spot for interests who don't necessarily know who we are. With warm audiences, it may not be something you can control. A warm audience is pretty much anyone who is familiar with us. So whether that's socially engaged, remarketing for people who have been to your website before, lists, that we want to capture as many people as possible. But again, it really depends on the type of campaign. So I could do a whole hour session just on how to choose your audience. But that's a brief overview, I guess.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you, Chloe. Let's see. We got so many with
I know.
2 likes. You guys got to throw in the. I'm going to show some favoritism and choose Jason North, who is a current member of our accelerator program. He has a question about retarget. He also won the T-shirt. I don't know. Maybe this is too much favoritism, but he had a question about retargeting strategies. Time windows should be used conversion optimization goal even for low budgets. Is all moving around. I'm missing it. Even for low budgets, effective retargeting, creative. So just questions around retargeting in general. How do you think about retargeting, Chloe?
Again, this may not be the most simple answer, but it does depend on your type of campaign again, right? So if we're talking about like a tier 1 traffic campaign, right? So if we are retargeting, we want to put out as broad of a net as possible because we aren't asking people for much. We're just trying to get them to the audience. So people who visited us 6 months ago may be interested as well. On Meta, you can only retarget people from the pixel. So that's going to be your page view in the last 180 days. I believe for your socially engaged, it is still a year, I want to say. And so we do have specifications that Meta puts forward. So we aren't going to be able to retarget somebody who visited our website one time 5 years ago, unfortunately. So anytime within that 180 days will, I think, still be pretty relevant. His question moved again. There we go. Okay. So should we use conversion optimization goals even for low budgets? So if you're talking about just running a conversion campaign, I think your answer is yes. The answer is yes, because you're going to want to see those results attribute back to your campaigns. So if you are even on a really low budget campaign, you want to see what results you have, right? And so if you're running a conversion campaign, that pixel will track back and tell you how your campaigns are doing. So you do get a little bit more data that way. Even with our offline events, some may attribute back to tier 1 campaigns or our traffic and our engagement. But yeah, even for low budget, you do want to use a conversion optimization, again, depending on the type of campaign.
Amazing. I love it. All right. I think this one is really strong. Amanda Wolfram asks, when thinking about ads for a giving day, what strategy do you suggest for advertising before the giving day to build awareness? Say the date, question mark. What timeline and messaging do you suggest? Now we only run the ad day of. That is fantastic. I have thoughts on this. Do you have any thoughts, Chloe?
So that is a wonderful question. In general, you want to warm people up. I would say the earlier, the better, right? So at least a month in advance is what, in a perfect world, what we would like to do, and get a generally engagement campaign going, to introduce some new people to what you're going to be doing. That way you can get your socially engaged audience up before you launch this. The one thing with Meta is that if you are only running your ads on one day, we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. And if you get an error in there, it's kind of over, right? And so I think even launching your donation ads at least a week in advance, it'll give everything time to run through the review process. Everything will be up and running. And you can start this on a really low budget just to make sure everything is going to be fine for your giving day. And then you can drastically up it with whatever budget you have on the day of or even the night before. And that way it just gives you a better shot of capturing the algorithm and actually serving your ads to the people that you want to get them to. So at least a month in advance for an engagement campaign, and then maybe a week for your donation campaign. In a perfect world, would be the way to go, I think.
Yeah, this is great. And the only things I'll add is to think through how you can incentivize people to take an action earlier. And there's a lot of interesting and creative ways you can do that. So you can have a match that runs out. You can have like a special perk that you can give away to the first, X amount of people to donate or support, handwritten thank you notes, etc. There are some things that you can do to incentivize people to take action early, and then you can spread it out as well. The second thing is on giving days, depending on the day, sometimes, so the way Facebook ads work is you pay money to reach an audience and you're competing with other advertisers in an auction. So on certain days when a lot of people are spending a lot of money to reach the same amount of people, it'll cost more to reach the same person. So an innovative thing that some orgs have done is, like for Giving Tuesday for example, putting a lot of their spend towards a different day. And sometimes they brand it as a different day, and it's like it's Giving Monday for us instead of Giving Tuesday, and it'll just cost less money, but people will still be resonating because it's close to the day. And then the third is just for campaigns in general. This is less ads related, but pump your frequency way up. The biggest lever that we see in our accelerator program when we're working with organizations who are running campaigns is basically just send more emails. People are really busy, and we're competing for their attention with Instagram and Facebook and Netflix and a new child in their house and all these things. So even though it might feel like we're being annoying with how many emails we're sending, just send more emails for the campaign, and almost always that results in better results, and these people want to support you, so they're not going to get annoyed by you sending emails as long as you frame it correctly. So those are my takes.
I'm seeing the point about messaging too. As far as messaging goes, I think one important point to come back to is, why is it important that your giving day is successful, right? So if you were to 100% reach your goal, what would that do for the communities and the mission that you serve? So that's a great place to start.
Absolutely. Let's see. We got...
I see a fun one from Alyssa in there on the top.
Let's do it. Best way to navigate constantly changing algorithms on Instagram and Facebook.
That is the name of the game, isn't it? The constantly changing algorithms on Instagram and Facebook. So even in my 3 years of working directly with nonprofit partners, there have been so many changes. And I think the best way to navigate it is just test and test and test. So with every new change, we will go in and run A/B tests on pretty much everything that we run. And even with a small budget, you can completely accomplish that. So whether that is running multiple ads with a changed headline, whether it's tweaking your audiences, whatever it may be, going in and experiencing kind of firsthand what that's going to do to your ads is the best way to go. I do think starting with not a cheaper campaign, but you know what I mean, either a reach campaign or an engagement. That way you aren't dropping a bunch of your budget into a conversion campaign just for a test. Is a good way to kind of figure out what's going to happen in the coming months, right? So meta is always changing, but I have found that the value has stayed the same. So all of our users and all the audiences that we want to reach are still there. We still have an amazing ability to reach those people where they are. And so being able to navigate that, even though it's changing, is super important for a lot of organizations.
I love it. It's fantastic. Thank you, Chloe. The only thing I will add, just because we run our accelerator program where we work with a bunch of different organizations, and what that gives us is the ability to see how different ads are working for a bunch of different people. Chloe's advice is 100% right. You want to test, and testing is the only way to see what's working right now. But so many organizations think the only way to test and to learn from tests is to run their own tests and spend their own money experimenting. But the fact of the matter is there's so many other nonprofits running paid ads. Like, learn from them and learn what's working from them. So there's plenty of ways to do that. You can join the accelerator program, join our community, get 5 friends who run marketing for nonprofits in a group chat, and just continue to ask them what's working for you right now. But just like the easiest way to level up is by talking to other people who are running similar campaigns and see what's working, and we can learn from everyone's tests, and it can be a win-win for everyone. So that's great. It is the name of the game. The algorithms are constantly changing, and Facebook has a mind of its own that we have to learn to be comfortable with. So, all right, we got Audrey has a question. Best way to optimize ad boosts on a very limited budget.
So first,
What kind of budget are we talking about, Audrey, by the way? Sorry, Clay. If you can give us some context as to what that budget is, that might be a little helpful. But
if we're talking boost, that instantly makes me think of boosting a post pretty much on the front end of your page, which generally we advise against. If you're doing it, totally fine, not the worst thing in the world. But on a very limited budget, I think the best way to optimize is to run a campaign from Ads Manager instead of just boosting a post. And the main reason is that you have a lot more control over what's going on in a campaign versus boosting a post. If you do have a post that you just want more engagement on, you want more eyes on, you can pull a post ID from that, and you can run your organic post in a campaign. So if that is something you're interested in, you can totally do that in an engagement campaign. But the best way to optimize it, I mean, again, that's the name of the game as well. It all comes back to testing. So if you can run multiple audiences, if you can run multiple ad creatives, you will get a lot of data really quickly. And so even on a very limited budget, you can run tests for $1, $2 a day, and that'll give you a lot of data quickly. And the way to optimize is to know what's working and build off of it. And so if you don't have the data, it's difficult to optimize.
All right. Agreed there. And the only piece I would add is to be really intentional about who you're targeting with ads. So if you have limited budget, almost always the best people to target are people who have supported in the past. We don't have that much time left. Do we want to do like a rapid fire? I feel bad if people have questions. In general, if you have questions that don't get answered, shoot me an email at eric@communityboost.org and we'll get them answered.
I'll also be heading to the lounge after this, so if you have a really pressing question, come find us in the lounge, and that'll be totally fine. Yeah. But we can rapid fire them.
All right. I'm going to rapid fire. Are you seeing better performance with advantage placement or manual placements?
Generally, we do manual placements just because we turn off the audience network. We also do manual placements if we don't have specific creative for stories and everything else. So generally manual, but if you have creative for all of them, go for it.
Awesome. What is the best strategy to make Meta spend my whole budget? My current campaigns are only spending half at most.
Interesting. So that makes me think you might have campaign budget optimization on. So what that is when you give your campaign a set amount every day. If you break that out and set your budget at the ad set level, so you give each audience a set amount every day, that generally works out pretty well, and we'll spend all of it.
Perfect. Audience size as well. Sometimes if the audience is too small, you can struggle with deliverability and bidding strategy. So I don't know if maybe you have a cost cap bidding strategy on. It could stunt deliverability. All right. What are the best and most effective hashtags to use on Facebook and Instagram?
Fun fact, for Facebook and Instagram ads, we only really use hashtags if it's like for aesthetic purposes, because if it's an ad, it's not actually going to show up under the hashtag when someone looks it up, which womp womp. So that is more of something we'll use in organic posts. I'll do like the Giving Tuesday hashtag sometimes just because it does look cool and turn blue. But that's more of an organic situation because it won't actually show up under the hashtag.
Yep. Value of using paid. Is there value of using paid meta ads to attract followers to your page?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a campaign you can run that is literally for page likes. So you go in and the CTA button, instead of saying learn more, donate now, it'll be a little thumbs up, and those people can one-click follow your page. So if followers are something you're looking for, I would absolutely try to run a page likes campaign, see how it does.
Absolutely. What else?
I see how important are pixels for meta ads. Very important, especially if you are running a conversion campaign, because that's the way you're going to be able to see your results attribute back to your campaigns. Also, without a pixel, you won't be able to retarget. So they are very important.
Awesome. Elizabeth, how do we present the uploading a list of our contacts to Meta to leadership when they are hesitant? I hear you, I feel you, and I want to help you. Just reach out to us and we can help with that. That's a little bit longer of a explanation, but oftentimes it can be good to lean on people who have ran a bunch of ads before to give you that added layer of credibility. Let's see.
I see one about when should orgs plan for year-end giving to maximize their impact. It might sound really dramatic. Start planning now. If I had a dollar for every organization that was like, we're going to start it super early, and then it becomes really difficult to get your creative together, to get your messaging together, and then it's December and we're working on campaigns, right? So I would start planning your messaging and what you're going to do as early as you possibly can.